Welcome back to Adventure World with the Godot game programming engine. Alright, so in this video, what I'd like to do is add, you'll notice there's some hearts up here, and I've got some spikes, and if I run into them, I get a little flash effect, and the heart is reduced, and if I run into them too many times, I'm also invulnerable for a second there, and if I run into them too many times, I collapse. Alright, so let's get into how to do this. So real quick, I'm going to jump over and let's see if I can wipe out. I think that did it. Yep. So I probably need to close all of this and then reopen it. So if I go back into my player scene, yeah, alright. So I've reset everything. And let me find my level 1. Alright, so first off, let's add the hearts. So to do that, we're going to use Godot has this great feature called a canvas item, and that's kind of like an overlay that goes over the screen. The nice thing is we don't have to worry about moving it around with the in the viewport and stuff, because it'll take care of that for us. Now I'm going to put it on my player because I pretty much want the hearts to show whenever the player is showing, and I don't want to have to remember to add it for each and every level. So let's go ahead and do that. So first I'm going to make a new scene, and I'm going to put it in this scene because we'll give it its own scene because it's not super complicated, but it's a little bit cluttered on the player. So I need a canvas item. So first off, if we just empty out our search, this is the canvas layer right there, and it's got this little drawing pin maybe there, so we're going to use that, and I'm going to rename this HUD canvas layer. Alright, so that'll be our what'll show. Let's go ahead and put that in objects and we'll save it. Underneath that, I'm going to add what's called it's a container, and it's a box container. It's a HBox container, and you'll see what this will do in just a second, because I'm going to add under that, I'm going to add looking for a texture rect. So a texture rect is kind of like a sprite, only it's for our canvas layer. And for that I need to jump up to art and HUD, and I've got this heart empty and heart full, and we're going to be using those. So let's drag, I had the wrong thing selected, drag that over and drop it in our texture. So now you can see my little heart there. I've already got this on my canvas, it's looking good. So I'm going to select the HBox container because I want to move the whole container. I'm going to just move it down and over to the right a little bit so it's not stuck on the top corner. Now the reason I made this HBox container is you'll notice when I duplicate the heart, the HBox container automatically separates and moves them to the right. If I didn't have this HBox container and I just put all these up here, well, they got their, if I put them up here and I put a heart on them and then I duplicated it, they just stack on top of each other, and that's not what I want. I don't think if I move, oh, it automatically adjusts them if I drop them in there, so that's nice. I'm going to delete those. I'm going to make them over again because I don't know what exactly that did to it, and we'll just make them full to start with. Alright, so I'm going to duplicate this 5 times. We'll just say that's the maximum number of hearts that we can have. Actually, let's simplify this and we just won't worry about adjusting the maximum hearts for now. So we'll go with 3 and we'll just start there. So the next thing I need to do is add a script to this. So we'll go ahead and add that. We'll leave the name default. And we're going to need, let's see, a couple variables. So I want to make references to these two pictures, the empty and full heart pictures. So what I can do is I can say var heart full text. Alright, so I just gave it a variable name, and I'm going to say preload, and then I'm going to say art slash HUD slash heart full. Alright, So what this will do is it'll preload that image and stick it in this variable. That way I won't have a jitter if I try and load this real time. When I'm changing it, it'll already be in memory, and I'll be able to just swap it in and out real quickly without a jitter. The other one I need is empty. So empty, and I need to change this part right here to empty. Alright, so now I should have variable references to both of those images, and they'll be loaded up for me. So now what I need to do is I want to have a function that updates. Alright, and I need to tell it how many hearts I'm going to have to update. So yeah, so we'll just call it hearts. And so this is how many hearts they're going to have. So if you get hurt and you only have 2 hearts, then we'll knock that this number would be 2 instead of 3. So what we need to do is loop through these heart textures right here, and we could name these if we wanted to, but I think we can get away without it here. So what we're going to do is we're going to loop through those. So I could loop through them one item at a time like this. I could use the for loop and say for t heart in, and I just use the t because I've got hearts up here actually, or I could call it I heart. There we go. Index heart in, and then I need to get the list of those children of this hbox. So what I can do is get node, and then go hbox container, and then to get the children we use get children right there. So this function right here will return an array of all of the children in this hbox, which in this case would be textdirect2, and textdirect3. And then each iteration of this for loop, it would assign it to iHeart. So this would be nice, except I wouldn't have any idea which one I was on. I would just, so if I was making an operation on each one of them independently, this would be great. Because I need to actually know which one I'm working on, I need the index. So instead I'm just going to call this I, and I'm going to use the range command, or range function. And what it does is it returns an array from one index to another. So in this case what I'm doing is I'm creating a range from 0 to the count of the number of children. So it would be 0 to 3. And so I should be 0 to 3. So what I could do here is print I. We'll see what happens when I do this. Well, I didn't put this in the scene, so nothing's going to happen. So real quick, let's add this to the player. So I already instanced it, so all I need to do is go in here and grab my HUD canvas layer, and there it is right there. So now when I play, because my player's already in the scene, that code will not run again because this function update is not being called anywhere. So real quick, we could make this a ready function here, but let's go ahead and add it into our player script. So I'm now on the player script right here, and I'm just going to set here, well, we're going to need a few variables. So let's go ahead and, okay, let's wait. I don't want to get too confusing. So I do want to get a variable for a reference to our HUD canvas layer, and we can do that by just doing the get node. So we'll do get node HUD canvas layer, and what did I call it? Update, and the amount of hearts we have, and we'll just say 2 hearts so that we can see our result in a minute here. And we got an error, and we're trying to convert argument 2 from an array to a float. Okay, so problem here is I forgot, I'm still getting all the children, and this would return an array, and really what I want is the size of that array. So I want to know how many elements are in that array. So I don't actually need the children, I just need to know how many children there are. So there we go, so 0, 1, 2, excellent. So I know, I probably shouldn't have stopped that, so I'll know this is heart 0, this is heart 1 and this is heart 2. So now what I can do here is I can get those hearts individually. So let's go var h, or heart, equals, and I'm going to go get so let's get node that one. Oh, I know why I need to name them. Alright, so here's why we need to name them. I don't have a way to snag these guys, right? Like, I can loop over them, and what I could do is I could do this. I could get children, and then get the indexed one, like that. This is pretty inefficient. I think this will be okay in this case. If I named them, however, what I could do is say get node, right? And then I could give it the name, say heart 1, right? And then I could just replace heart with my index, and then get rid of this. So if I named this one, this would work and be a little bit more efficient. Let's go ahead and do that. Wanted to show that the other way worked as well, but I think this is probably the smart move. And these are actually 0, 1, 2, 1, 2. So let's go ahead and do that. Alright, so excuse my jumping around. So yeah, that should work. And nesting these get nodes, I could really collapse these by just doing that, I believe. Yeah. I want to make sure my slash went in the right direction. Alright, so that should get the heart. Now I need to assign to that heart the texture, right? So I need to know, is he full or is he empty? So because I'm passing in the number here of the number of hearts, I actually can do a really simple check here by just saying if hearts is, if I is greater than hearts. So this is my index, so if it's 0, 1, 2, and I passed in 1, so I'm going to use greater than. Well, what I could do is just do +1. That'll make it the math look a little bit better. So this will count 1, 2, 3, and if I pass in hearts 2, then only the third heart will pass this test. So what we want to do in this case is paint the texture to empty, right? So we'll go ahead and grab that because we're going to need that. So all we need to do is say heart.texture equals, and then our empty texture reference right there. And otherwise it's full. So let's do heart.texture equals, and then we'll grab that full texture. Alright? So let's see this in action. So we're passing in 2, right? So we should see 2 hearts full and 1 heart empty. Alright, excellent. So I think we're done on this function, or on this, I'll just clean up the code a little bit. So I think we're done here in the canvas script. So let's jump back to our player script, and let's clean up our variables here a little bit. So we created a bunch of variables for all sorts of things here. Most of this is movement. So I'm going to move velocity up here because he's kind of the big boy of the movement. So we call this movement, and that is 2. This is for water. It's also movement, but we're just kind of lump it in there together with water. And then this is going to be for health and status. Well, we'll just call it health for now. We may add some other types of status later, like poisoning or on fire, something like that might be fun. But for now, let's call this health. So I need to store how much health I have. So var health equals, and let's say we'll start them off with full health at 3. And then here in the, I still need this guy, but let's change this instead of 2, let's change it to that health that we just created right there. And I also, let's see, what else do I need? So if I play this, you know, I'll have full health, hopefully, right? But he has no way to get hurt yet, so let's go ahead and do that. So squeeze that up a little bit. We'll push it, put it in here. I like to keep ready at the top because you know that's what's going to be run first, and so I like to put my other functions below it. It doesn't matter. Godot just doesn't care where your functions are as long as they're properly formatted. So let's make function hurt. And you could pass in an amount, so let's say amount equals 1. So we'll give it a default value, so if you don't pass an amount, then it'll just be 1. But if we wanted to have like a boss that hits you for 2, then we could use the same function. So I want to subtract from the player's health, so I can do health minus equals amount. So that'll subtract the amount, or subtract the health, and then I can use this same line to print that. Now, I don't have a way to hurt my player yet, so let's go ahead, actually, let's go ahead and just do it. So we've already done this, these arrays, or areas, quite a bit. We've done them for the bushes, we've done it for the water, and when we did it for the water, and also our flag, but when we did it for the water, we affected the player. So we're going to do the exact same thing here, and I'm just trying to enforce how important of a concept these areas with the signal events are in game programming. So I'm going to create a new scene, and I'm going to go up here to the origin, let's zoom in a little bit, and let's make this an area 2D. So none of this is going to be too new. We're going to do something new here in just a second. So under art and other spikes, so I'm going to drop that on texture, and let's rename this before we save it. So spikes area 2D, save, put it in the objects folder. Looks good, and we need two things. We need a script, but we also need the area. Now, we had been using the collision shape 2D, and you know, we could put a box on it, but the player, in this case, it probably wouldn't matter. But if you had a sharper spike, you'd have this big area right here, this area, where the player could potentially jump through, and if you used a box, you would hit that corner there and damage the player. And if it was more pronounced, that would be really irritating. So what we're going to do is actually look at this collision polygon, and these are useful for other things too, but in this case what it allows you to do, you'll notice in my editor I get these 3 new buttons, and what I can do is, this is the add node, this is the move node, and this is the remove. So I'm going to use add node, and what you can do is click and just draw your collision area, and then when you right click, it completes the shape. So in this case, I've created this nice shape right here, tightly around my spikes, and you could even go down and within here if you wanted to, but there wouldn't be an instance where my player would go down there, and this will be more efficient. So I'm going to leave this like this, but what you could do is you could click this blue one, and now you can modify the points if you need to, if you made a mistake, or if you need to adjust it. You can also remove points by clicking the red one, and I believe if you click, well, that's going to start a new one, so we don't want to do that. I'll just undo it. There may be a way to inject one back in, not sure. Oh yeah, there we go. So the blue one, if you click on the line, it shows a little green arrow there. That's neat. So in my case, I don't need that extra one I just created, so let's go ahead and delete him. There we go. Alright, so let's go ahead and leave that alone. But I do need my script, and I'll add it up here on the top level. And we can go ahead and make a script file for that. Probably if I was just working, probably in this case, actually that's not a bad idea. In this case, let's go ahead and just make this a built-in script. We'll create that. And the reason for this is going to be extremely limited in code, and it's not going to change. There's going to be very little reason for it to change. So notice that my script get created down here. Let's go ahead and delete that. We don't need it. And alright. So what this script is going to do is on a collision, let's trigger an event. So body entered, attach it up there, connect, and we're going to do just like what we did in the water. We're going to say if body.hasMethod hurt, then call body.hurt. Alright? And yeah, that's all we need here, so that's why I just made it a built-in script. There's really no reason to go overboard there. So let's go back to my level. Let's go to the designer and let's bring those in. So I want to put them under static object, so I'm going to select static object over here, select static object over here, and I'm going to run over here and grab the spikes and drag them in where I want them. So I'm going to put them right here. This will force the player to have to jump over if they don't want to take damage. And so now, yeah, so now I should be able to take damage. So if I walk into the spike, you'll notice I take a heart of damage when I go in. Now the reason, so I don't die when I go to 0, that's a problem. Also, you'll notice even if I was full health, and this is okay, once I enter the spikes, I don't continually take damage, I only take damage once. We can fix that down the road. I don't think we're going to mess with that too much today. So, but we do need to handle when he dies, so, or passes out. So let's go into our player script. So what we need to do here is we're going to have a couple things happen. So one, I want to have a little knockback. So if you play a game like Mario, I believe Mario does this, they give you a brief moment of invulnerability. It also kind of knocks your player back. That's pretty common. That way it kind of knocks the player off balance, let's say, when they take a hit. And I think that's important, and it makes your game feel a little bit more interactive. So let's go ahead and try and do that. So we're going to go var knock back. We'll give that an amount, let's say 6,000. So that's going to be the amount of force I'm going to apply to the character. And because we've already got our velocity, all I have to do is add a knockback velocity to that, and that should knock him back. So got my knockback, and I want to track if he's in a knockback state. So is in back equals false, so he's not going to be knocked back when we start. And I also want to say is we'll say is passed out instead of dead. So he's not passed out. Or, yeah, that's good. So, alright, so here, when we get hurt, we need to check and see if it's a knockback or if he's passed out. So the passed out is easiest, so if we say if health is less than or equal to 0, then he's passed out. And we'll just call a function, and that'll allow us to handle that somewhere else instead of right here in our hurt function. So func passed out, or I guess proper tense would be pass out, and we'll take care of that here. Well, we'll just say player passed out. And when you use these quotes, you notice sometimes I switch between single and double, and they both make strings. In GDScript, they both do the same thing, but you do have to make sure you match. So at the beginning and end, you have to use the same, whether you use single or double. So I just wanted to make note of that. Alright, so is passed out. Good, good. So I've got the pass out. So otherwise, I want to do knockout. So I don't want to do the knock back if he passes out, right? I don't need to play the flashing animation and make him move backwards. I just want him to only do that when he doesn't pass out. So that's why I'm using the else statement here. So I'm going to do I'm going to call the function knockback, and that'll allow me to move that as well. So we'll do that, func knockback. And so the obvious thing here, well, I can go ahead and fix this too. So the obvious thing here is passed out as true, right? And for now, we're not going to handle a way to get back out of the passed out status for today. We'll do that in another video. Maybe we'll have a main menu or something that you go back to. So we'll just put him into the passed out state. And the other thing we can do to finish that up while we're here is we can just say in our process function here, we want to skip all this code. If you pass out, we don't want you to be able to walk around and jump and stuff like that. So what we're going to do is just say if is passed out. So it's if you don't identify it, it's the same as saying that right there. So if I just do this, then that will check and see if that value is true. So if is passed out, then we're just going to return. And what that'll do is it'll jump right out of this function without doing any more code in this function. So that way I don't have to worry about my player moving around and stuff. So let's finish. So that should handle my dying, except for I kind of want to do an animation, so we'll do that in a minute. But for the knockback, I probably should have done one of these at a time. So let's just go ahead and do that. So we'll just put a pass in here right now so this code doesn't redline on me. And let's go ahead and finish the passing out. So for the pass out, I want to do an animation, right? So I want to do the flashing animation. So let's go and do that. So I need to go to my player, and I need a new node. I need an animation player. I think we've messed around with these before, but they are pretty handy. And what we're going to do is we're going to animate our sprite. So I'm going to click on the animation, and it brings up my animation resource editor down here. And what I'd like to do is I'm going to create I saw someone else do this in a tutorial, and I really liked it. So I'm going to have a set up animation, and I'm going to set that to auto. If you hover over this, auto play on load, and this will reset my properties on my sprite. So the things I want to record here are, I want to record I don't care about the animation, I do care about my transform. So I want to record his position, so go ahead and do that. I also want his rotation, so I want to know that he's standing up, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of lean him over when he dies. And I also want the visibility, because we're going to make him flicker. And to do that, we're going to adjust this modulation property. So, well, you also notice my HUD here shows up. We could, to kind of clean that up, what we could do is hide the visibility on that, and then in this script on ready, we could do get node, just copy it here and say show. Right, and so now when I actually play my game, they show up, but they're not in my way when I'm editing my player. Not super important, but Good to know. Alright, so back to what we were doing. We were working on the animation player. So I've got my setup, right? So I can restore my player's position and everything with it by just calling this. If you play around with these, you'll see why that's kind of important. But the one I wanted to do was knockback, right? Or no, we're doing passed out. Alright, so this is the action of passing out. And we'll make it 1.2. 1.5 maybe. We want it to be kind of dramatic when it happens, so we'll make it a little bit longer. And what I want to do is I want to make sure I start at this position, so I'm going to record this again. I'm going to record position and rotation. Oh wait, this is the yes, pass out. Okay. And I don't care about the modulate in this case because I'm not actually going to animate those. But what I want to do is I kind of want to lay them down. Oh, I also want the animation. So I'm going to set this to actually, let's add another animation. So let's go to the animated sprite and click on its animation here. And let's do a new one, and we'll call this one hurt. Alright, and then under art, I believe there's one in here for hurt. He kind of has like a little startled look on his face, and his arms and legs are out. So that's good. Let's go back to our animation player, and we're going to record that we want him to be in the hurt animation. So what this will do is by playing this animation, I will force the property on this animated sprite to go to hurt, and we'll see him move into this, see the sprite move into that animation. I know that's a little bit tricky, but it'll work. And so I want him to kind of rotate over. So we've got the initial position, right? So I want to go over to just about to the end, and let's change his, or let's record his animation at hurt again. And then right here at the end, let's change it to idle. So that kind of has like a peaceful look to it. If I was real intense, I would go and edit this picture and make his eyes closed or something, and add a new animation, and we could assign that here, and that would be great for that. But the other thing we need to do is move him or lay him down. So the reason I restored position is because you'll see when I change the rotation, so I'm going to use -90, which will be laying down. You notice he rotates right on his center, and so this would look really weird. He would actually be floating up in the air, and he kind of rotates on his head. So what we're going to do is we're going to record that. So we do want to record the rotation, but we're also going to scoot him down. So I'm going to grab him here, and I'm going to scoot him over and down. Just like that. Kind of want him to pivot more on his feet or knees a little bit there. Let's see how that looks. So I do want to record the position. So now I can play this animation by starting up here and hit play. See that? He transitions over kind of smoothly, and then flips his animation right here at the end. Could even scoot that just a little bit further up, and I think that'll give us a little bit better effect. So he falls and then passes out. Alright, so I think that looks pretty good, but we need to play this. So if we go to our pass out here, we can start this animation by doing just like what we do, with the other animations. Oh, nope, that's wrong. It's similar, but we need to get the animation player instead of the animated sprite. So let's go ahead and do get node animation player, and then we'll play, and then we have to tell it which one we want to play, which is pass out. And we won't call the setup. We might if we needed to restore him back to standing up, but in this case we're just using it to make sure that we have a way to restore our character. But here this should play the pass out. So let's go ahead and test that real quick. And 1, 2, and 3. Oh, and he falls. Now he's sliding on us because his last position, and I can't control him. His last position, I actually load into the next level. His last position was, or his last velocity was moving. So let's change this right here. So instead of just returning, what we'll actually do is set vel.x equals 0. So I don't care about his y velocity, because if he passes out in the sky, I'd kind of like him to go ahead and fall to the ground. But in the case of moving left to right, I just want him to fall over right where he's at. So that looks pretty good. He kind of looks believably knocked out at that point. And yeah, that really wasn't too hard. Real quick, while we're in here, let's go ahead and finish up the knockback. So for the knockback, I'm going to do the similar thing with the animation. So you notice now I'm kind of in this passed out state, and I'm like, oh, I really want him to be back standing up. How do I do that? So I don't have a way here. I would have to come back here and adjust these settings. But because I recorded those back on this, all I have to do is click my setup, and I'm back to back to normal. So that's why we did this. So I'm going to create another one. So let's create another animation, and let's call this knockback. Or actually, let's rename that. Is it having a rename? There we go, rename. Let's rename it to Flash. Alright? And so for the Flash, I'd like it to be just a touch longer, and the steps are okay. What we're going to do is we're going to record the modulation here. So this is going to be the only thing we're going to adjust, is we're going to adjust the alpha value of this modulate. So I'm going to move over just a little bit, and I'm going to adjust this modulation. I'm going to bring his transparency down. I don't want him to totally disappear, so we'll just make him kind of invisible like that, kind of transparent, and then we'll keyframe that again. I'll move forward to, and I'll select this one and duplicate. Forward to, select that one, 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 duplicate. So what I was doing here is, let's play it. See that? He's flashing in and out. So what I was doing is I was duplicating the one before it, which was either the solid color or the translucent color, or the solid color or the translucent color. And the reason we extended this and not just played, did like one cycle and then we'll play it over again, is because we're going to use the fact that when this animation ends, we want to activate something. So we get to look at a new little piece of code, which I just found out about the other day and was super excited about, because it allows us to do something like this. So when we get knocked back, I want to set is knock in knockback equals true. Alright? And I want to play the flash animation. Alright? And then I want to wait until this animation is done, and then I'm going to do is in knockback again equals false. So after the animation finishes. So to do that, we use a keyword called yield. And what yield does is it waits until something happens before it finishes running. It's kind of like the super brief explanation for it. And to do this, we need a node. I'm not sure if there's help on this. Yeah. GDScript yield. Yeah. So it takes an object and a signal. So I guess it ties into the signaling system from Godot. Oops, I want to jump back into the script. So we need the animation player, I'm going to get that. So that we want to wait until the animation finishes. So, oh, here it's given us the all the different signals coming out of the animation player. And in this case, I want the animation finished. So Godot was super helpful there with the suggestions. And if you click on the animation player and you clicked on node and you looked here, you'd see there's an animation finished signal. So that's what we're tying into. It's the very same thing here. But I just did it with code, and I did it in one line. And since I don't actually need to fire code when that happens, I just want to wait until that's finished to continue. I can use this nice yield function. So anyways, that's really cool. I could also tie that signal to a new function, and then in that function just say is knockback equals false. But I think this is a lot more simple to do. So that's great, but I don't want to take damage again while I'm in that knockback state. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to modify my hurt function up here. I'm going to short circuit it just like what I did down in the movement stuff. I'm going to say if is in knockback. So if I'm being knocked back, I don't want to take any damage. So I'm just going to return. So in this case, I won't take any health damage. I won't update the health, and I won't pass out or get knocked back again during the knockback. And as soon as it's done, my knockback will go false, and then I'll be able to take damage again. And let's see. Let's give this a shot and see if we're missing anything. Oh, we didn't do the force. So yeah, there I take some damage, and I come back in. And if I was really well, and there I pass out. So we didn't apply the knockback. So I want to have him kind of jump back a little bit. So there's a little tiny problem here. So I can apply the knockback. So we'll add a little bit of an upward knockback. So I can do that with vel.y equals negative knockback, and we'll multiply that because if the y direction seems to take a little bit more, we'll just do 2. That way, if we got hurt while we were in the sky, say we hit a bird or something while we were in the sky, it'll kind of jump up a little bit from that. I think that's kind of standard. But my x velocity, if I just add a knockback, excuse me. If I just add a knockback, I won't know which direction I'm going, so I may move into the problem instead of away from the problem. So what I can do is I can check the direction my player is facing, because we use it down here with this flip H. Alright? So I may get this backwards, so you'll have to forgive me. True, not true. So if it's true, then I want to do velocity.x equals knockback. So we'll do negative knockback. And I think, wait. Yeah, we'll just experiment and see what happens. Otherwise, vel.x equals negative knockback. Yeah, let's go ahead and give this a shot and see what happens. If I walk into it, oh, I got it right. So let's jump over and we'll hit it from the other side and make sure we go the other direction. Yeah, there we go. And we could even bump that knockback up just a little bit. So let's go up to like 8,000. And this didn't seem to need that as much. There we go. Let's try jumping on the spike, see what happens when we do that. Yeah, get a nice little... Ouch. Alright, so yeah, and you already know how to add an audio, so I would probably have up here in the knockback and pass out functions, because you probably want to play different sounds for whichever one happened. So in those two functions, you could add sound files, so you can make new audio streams and do, you know, like an ouch sound for when you hit the spike, and if you passed out, you could make like a, you know, oh, or something kind of sound. But yeah, I think this was a good video. Probably ran a little bit long, but that's alright. We covered a lot of really neat stuff, and I hope you learned something. Thanks for watching. Bye.